GCAP is being implemented on 4 components, but technically it is 3 who are driving it. The other one is project management, so we don't touch on that. But the component 1 is to do with promoting an improved investment climate and strengthening state institutions involved in attracting investors. And because of this, we've been working in close partnership with the Lands Commission, institutions like the Lands Commission and the GIPC. Currently, as part of the exercise we are doing here, this component is we're focusing on attracting investors to the 3 rehabilitated and modernized irrigation schemes. Our component 2 is to do with promoting private sector investments and smallholder linkages. And currently, this component is promoting sustainable land use and enhanced food security, targeted support for climate-smart agriculture, and optimizing production under irrigation. I would like to move to the component 3, for which we are here. And this is investments in physical rehabilitation and modernization of selected public irrigation and drainage infrastructure. Under this component, we have 3 main pillars or drivers, and these are rehabilitating and expanding, if possible, and modernizing irrigation infrastructure in selected schemes. Reforming irrigation institutions, for which matter we've been working closely with our technical partner, Ghana Irrigation Development Authority, and also ICOR Limited, the managers of the scheme in Tono. And then the 3rd one is promoting sustainable utilization of the schemes post-rehabilitation through efficient scheme management. GCAP selected 3 major irrigation schemes, which we've mentioned already. The Tono irrigation scheme, which from there, then we also looked at the Pond irrigation scheme and the Pond Left Bank irrigation scheme. Mr. Chairman, the Pond irrigation scheme and the Pond Left Bank irrigation schemes have been given much more impetus after the construction of the Pond Dam, since it was constructed as a multi-purpose dam for both hydroelectric and then agriculture. The KIS, which is currently the biggest scheme, is providing water for about 4,000 hectares of land. And whilst Tono also provides 2,490 hectares. In the case of the Pond Left Bank irrigation project, the focus of this investor conference, we are looking at making provision of water to irrigate at least 3,300 hectares of land. This 3,300 hectares, part of it will be under gravity flow, whilst 1,500 hectares would be by means of pumping from the canals. In addition to the physical improvement of the infrastructure, as I mentioned earlier, we are also working with JIDA and ICOR to reposition them and strengthen them to effectively, in the case of JIDA, be the regulators, whilst ICOR also are repositioned to be able to manage more effectively Tono irrigation scheme. We also realize that in order for us to break the cycle of rehabilitating and then a scheme falls into disrepair much earlier than expected, there is a need to put in place a viable scheme management entity. And so these viable scheme management entities would be in charge of the management, operations, and maintenance of the schemes. with direct oversight from the regulators who are JIDA. Again, JCAP sponsored the LI 2230, that is the Irrigation Water Users Association regulation, which per its person now mandates that any water user on the irrigation scheme be part of a water user association. And these water user associations, apart from utilizing the infrastructure, are also to assist in the management of the schemes to improve sustainability. These works are going to be allocated specific service areas or areas from where they will be operating from. In order to ensure security of tenure in investments, there was the regulator, that is JIDA, and the scheme management entities are going to have the relevant agreements amongst them to ensure that there is security of tenure. So definitely for the scheme management entity to be able to be up to its task and provide the works with water, there would be an agreement between them to ensure that the scheme management entity lives up to expectation. The same applies to the WUA, also living up to expectation and servicing the area in which they have been allocated. Yeah, so in brief, the left bank is located on the site for cotton project, Sogakope, as acquired by government with an EI 162 in 1975. And that is a layout of the Pond left bank as originally envisaged. On the far left is the reservoir of the Pond Dam, from where the canal, the main canal, or what we call the supply canal, takes from. And it goes for about 3.5 kilometers and divides into two main canals, 1 and 2. And this main canal 1 also continues for close to over 11 kilometers to the end where we have the phase C. And then the MC2, that is the main canal 2, also continues for over 8 kilometers before it ends. In between them, we have land of about 2,000 hectares encompassed. The place is relatively developed. There are educational institutions, communication is good. The energy and power, they are connected to the national grid. There is sanitation. Some of the communities take water directly from the Volta or other streams around. But the presence of JCAP, we were able to provide water for about 5 communities after we shut the scheme. There are health facilities also dotted around, but the closest is the one at Akuse. Yes, the transportation network is good. Market centers is also fairly close by. The geology and the soils have also been adequately looked at during the design period, and investors would be given these detailed soil maps and profiles when we finish this conference. But we would entreat that wherever you are allocated finally, you still, without prejudice to what we're going to give you, you still need to do your detailed soil analysis. There are about 6 main types of soils that we have here. And they all can be found in the info pack we've given you, so you can look at that. Yeah, so what was our intervention here before we came? The works itself was divided into 2. We had the civil works aspect, and we also had the automation aspect. The civil works dealt with rehabilitating the existing scheme. You remember as Togbe was speaking, he said, and Amida 1, 450 hectares. There was an attempt to develop 450 hectares of land. So we rehabilitated this one and raised the canals further to be able to command higher ground. Apart from that, we also have constructed new canals to make it possible for us to expand the scheme to cover the 2,000 hectares that was land that was envisaged. Apart from the construction and rehabilitation of the irrigation and drainage infrastructure, we have also looked at the land development. And here we looked at clearing, de-stamping, leveling and terracing, and also partitioning the fields into 1 hectare blocks. To make mobility easier among the communities and future investors, we have also done different levels of routes connecting the communities, what we call community roads. Then we have the farm access roads, which are done along the canals to enable investors take in and bring out inputs and produce, respectively. Then we also have inspection roads, which would help us to maintain the canals periodically. So if we look at roads, all these categories of roads, we've done over 80 kilometers of roads. Canals are over 50 different types of categories. And then drains also different types of drains. Regarding the automation, the objective is quite novel in the country, and the objective was to help in monitoring and also water level controls in the canals, as well as volumetric measurement of flow. By this last one, it means that we would be able to accurately measure usage of water by the water user associations. This would definitely promote transparency when it comes to billing and, of course, the payment of the irrigation service charges, and also promotes efficient usage, because if you know you're going to pay at the end of the day, you don't open the water and go and sleep overnight. You are sure that every drop of water that gets to your field goes for a particular, to be used to best results. Coming with the automation is a master control center where the operations will be done from. And so from there, the scheme operators would be able to open gates and close them as and when they give the commands. And the investors and the stakeholders can also call in to the master control room via or send text messages. Because this place being quite in communication fairly good, we are using 2 of the telecom service providers. In case there are hiccups in the system, there is a manual override. So apart from the master control center where we can control everything remotely, we can also control by the installations themselves, and then manually, when both fail, we can climb and use our hand to also close and open the gates as it were. What are the investment opportunities? This being a new scheme, the opportunities exist along the entire irrigation agriculture value chain, from direct crop or aquaculture production to value chain service provision opportunities, and then to scheme management services. But for strategic reasons and on the basis of the soil suitability analysis, it is expected that about 60 to 70% of the area will be earmarked for rice production. The other areas would be open for plantation crop development, vegetables, or aquaculture, as the case may be, depending on the results we get after the very transparent evaluation process. That would happen after we have received your proposals. So the production level opportunities, we are looking at where investors can acquire portions of the available land, minimum 100 hectares for rice and 10 hectares for vegetables. In the case of the plantation crop development and others, the minimum size shall be based on an assessment of the proposed investor's business plan and/or economic model. For security of tenure in investments, leaseholds of up to 50 years is envisaged, working with JIDA and then the Lands Commission. On the basis of socioeconomic analysis and valuation of the irrigated service lands, an upfront payment of Ghana cedis 42, average it to 43,000 per hectare of land shall be charged to the investors. This will be in addition to the annual payment of irrigation service charges to be collected by the WES or the SME. The indicative ISC per cubic meter of water, that is the cost of providing water, underground cubic meter of water, has been calculated at about 1.108 pesos. 108 pesos. Yeah, so this is what would form the basis for determination of the ISC on a medium-term basis. Once the SME is in place and the WES are in place, these players, together with the Ghana Irrigation Development Authority, the regulator, will determine on a medium basis the ISC charges, which would be charged annually. We expect that because of the reliable provision of water, in case of rice, at least 200% cropping would be achieved. In the case of vegetables, it could go even up to 400%. Now, value chain services opportunities. Along the value chain also, a lot of investment opportunities exist. And this one, I would mention that these same opportunities also exist across the banks, that is at KIS. So any investor who is interested in the left bank would surely also attract the same kind of investments at KIS, that is the right bank. So we have provision of farm input services, mechanization support services, and this one, I think investors can hook on to the government's flagship program, agric mechanization, the setting up of AMSEX, and be able to set up some of these mechanization centers here and also in KIS. Produce handling, processing, and storage, that warehousing, pack houses, drying floors, etc. These opportunities also exist at this new scheme. There is also transport and haulage services, and most importantly, brokerage and marketing services, that is aggregators and so on. There would also be opportunity for baling and treatment of rice straw and other crop stowers for animal feed processing, and such as processing of rice husk. There is also this unique opportunity where, without prejudice to the investor's application, whether in the value chain or direct production, could also apply for scheme management opportunity, where we are looking at schemes or investors who are prepared to partner the regulator to set up a viable management entity who would ensure management, operations, effective management, operations, and maintenance of the scheme to ensure that at least the minimum life of the scheme is achieved. We are saying that it is high time we became more efficient on schemes like this. And in becoming efficient, we need to look at the soils, we need to look at the kind of seed we put in, we need to look at our agronomic practices, and so on. And we believe that it is achievable on schemes like this to easily get 7 metric tons per hectare. Indeed, anything below that, then you are just on the marginal line. You will not be getting much profits. And so when you go through this for one season, we are looking at a gross margin of about 7,320 Ghana cedis. And this, if you aggregate it to the 200% crop production per year, over 100 hectares, the benefit cost ratio comes to about 1.85. That is, for every 1 cedi you put in, you can make up to 85. The IRR is okay, and then the NPV also looks favorable because we are looking at a discount rate of about 19.75 if we are going to finance with debt. We look for debt equity. So this is just a small analysis we've done over the 50 years leasehold we are looking at. As you are also aware, main policies supporting the development of agriculture is good. The ministry continues to implement its FASDEP 2. Government has also introduced this umbrella program, Investing for Food and Jobs, where we have the initiatives such as Planting for Food and Jobs, Planting for Export and Rural Development, all underway. There also exists a favorable environment and incentives for agro-processing businesses, custom duty exemptions for agricultural and industrial machinery, support for mechanization, services and land development, and promotion of affordable financing. And so, in brief, these are some of the opportunities that investing in the left bank, which I believe most of these investments can have a spillover in the right bank also, would bring to us. Thank you very much.